DJ and PK. PK's on vacation. He's back next week. I'm joined right now by Riley Jensen, former Utah State quarterback, now a mental performance coach. Riley, good morning.
What's happening, my man?
There you are. You've popped up on the Airlink. I heard you were on Airlink. Look at you. The old dog can learn new tricks. Goodbye, cell phone. Hello, technology.
I'm not afraid. Plus, it makes me sound a little better. It doesn't make me sound like I'm in a tunnel when I'm talking to you.
Mental performance coach jumps out with, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Get the football tough guy mixed in there. That was a very on-brand answer. Good work, Riley. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
There is something that is about to happen in college football that is going to make people shake their head, and then they're going to think, well, I've been shaking my head for the last 5 years. Why don't I shake my head one more time? They went from 2 transfer portals down to 1. But now we got word that there are people in college sports who think there could be as many as 10 or 15 players who just transfer at the end of the school year, you know, like students do, and then challenge it in court and go wherever they want to go to get paid whatever they want to pay, to play as many snaps as they think they're going to play, and to win as much as they think they're going to win, whatever it is that, or some combination of all those things that's drawing them to make the move. That would be one more rule that couldn't be enforced. And that would be a rule that would set this whole thing on its ear. And I wanted to talk to you about it because, number one, you played and you transferred, right? You went to Snow, you went to BYU, spring football. You weren't going to win the job. And a BYU coach is like, we understand, go to Utah State. You want to play, we get it. And so then you finish up at Utah State. So you lived it. You went to NC State. You were a graduate assistant for a year. You were part of the machine. It's not like you were driving the bus, but you saw how the machine worked in that era. And you listened to coaches in that era still moved a lot. And I'm sure you were in rooms and you heard discussions. And now you're still working on campuses. You also work with pro teams. You work with high school kids and college kids. And at different times, you've had contracts with different schools. And I'm just curious, when you hear this transfer rule, how you think schools are going to react, how it's going to impact schools. And do you think, and no one knows, but do you think we're headed for a level of chaos that we thought we just escaped?
Well, I'm a little bit surprised that this is just coming out because this is actually the way that Jake Retzlaff transferred to Tulane. Mm-hmm. Was he did this blind transfer thing where he enrolled in school and then it doesn't count as because when everything came out, it was after the transfer portal window was closed. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And so the whole reason that he enrolled in school and then he just happened to be a student there who, you know, walked onto the football team and then all of a sudden got a contract and was able to play football at Tulane. So this isn't the first time that I've heard of the blind transfer.
But don't you think that's why it's happening? That a bunch of, let's call it like it is, agents around college football watch that play out and like, hey, that worked. I'm putting that in my back pocket. One or more of my clients might need that next year. In a way, it seems almost like an inevitable chain of events.
Oh, I mean, this is just part of the progression.
Yeah.
I think the real question here is who's in charge of college sports?
Nobody.
I don't feel like the NCAA has any teeth, and this is exactly what, you know. And there's good agents out there, but there's definitely a lot of bad agents out there that are willing to take advantage of every loophole and every single thing that's out there, and there's no teeth on any enforcement. And so it's not like, you know, like the NCAA is passing rules against, you know, coaches. They're trying to make it so coaches will get a 6-game suspension, but they're gonna tie that up in court too, because they're gonna say, hey, this guy matriculated into our school. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not allowing me to play somebody who was already in our school. And so I think the tentacles and the difficulties of college football are just beginning. I don't see any relief on any of this for years to come until somebody finally just says, look, we got to do something different.
Okay, I'm going to push back a little bit first on the agent thing. You said good agents and bad agents. I would say there's another category. There's good agents making good decisions for their clients that are bad decisions for the system. but they're good for their clients. And they're not paid to worry about the system, right? Okay, so there's that in there also. All right, who's in charge? Well, I would say no one, and I don't even think I can blame the NCAA at this point, although goodness knows that's a fun pastime, and people have been doing it for decades, longer than I've been alive. But here's the thing. The NCAA says junior college years count as part of your eligibility, and you know that. You literally live that. You use some of your eligibility at Snow. Now we got a player go to court, and it turns out the JC year doesn't count for him. But the next player goes to court, different judge, loses, and the JC year does count for him, just like it counted for you, Riley. They said you can't have a 7th year, you can't have an 8th year, you can't have a 9th year, and now we got a player at Montana who's getting a 9th year. I mean, we can blame the NCAA, but they're going to court and losing. And quite frankly, they're losing on stuff that we as sports fans thought was settled. Yeah, we don't have a legal background. Maybe that was the right legal decision. I think all this goes back to their college sports is becoming pro sports. Kind of, because they're spending a lot of money, but it's not because pro sports has a union, has a collective bargaining agreement. There's chaos in pro sports. It's the Wild West when position coaches are trying to get coordinator jobs and coordinator jobs are trying to get head coaching jobs. But there's still a window where free agency can happen. There's a window where players can be bought out of contracts. There are players with non-guaranteed deals who know they can be waived or traded at any time. So there's structure to the chaos as opposed to this is pure chaos, and it's not the Wild West. It's the wild, wild, Wild West.
No, it is because, well, and you're talking about groups of people who, I mean, there's no salary cap.
Yeah.
There's rumors that the only reason that the Washington quarterback went back to the University of Washington was because he was going to lose that in court because he had signed a contract, right? So now, I mean, I can even see where like it's going to work against schools depending on their labor laws and their work laws about contracts, right? Like, are NDAs easy to get out of? Sometimes, depending on the state that you live in, right? And it's going to be like, hey, you don't want to go play in Oklahoma because their work laws are terrible if you want to transfer. There are so many rabbit holes to go down when there's no regulation, when there's no collective bargaining agreement, when there's no union. I think the lesson that I'm learning is how regulated and how pretty good pro sports has been over the years. You know, like, wow. Yeah. Wow. I had no idea we could get this crazy.
That's a good point.
It's crazy.
It is. So then the question is, how much are local schools set up to endure the crazy? Because when it gets crazy, somebody benefits and somebody loses. And that's just the way it is. And with what we just saw in the transfer portal, my first instinct is that BYU is set up for it pretty well. That Utah, I'm not sure. Because this was kind of a one-off with Kyle going to Michigan. I mean, the Utes got hurt. They lost multiple players, but they're not going to lose their head coach to Michigan every year, right? There were personal relationships there that probably made this year a bad year for the Utes in the transfer portal, but not every year necessarily has to look like this. So I think I need a little more evidence before I judge with the Utes. Just got to put them on hold. And then for Utah State, good news and bad news. The bad news is they are set up to get plundered on a regular basis. The good news is they are set up to plunder other people on a regular basis. And the best news is that everybody in the league is in pretty much the same boat. They're all looking at the Power Fours thinking, man, if those schools open up the checkbook and come for a player in the Pac-12, then the Big 12's probably getting them. The ACC's probably getting them. The Big 10, the SEC will get them. But at the same time, you know, they're bigger than the Big Sky, and we just saw a quarterback go from D2. The Mountain West can go get a player out of D2 if they can find their Chambliss. So I guess the Aggies are just in the middle of it, but so is everybody else in their conference schedule.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of difficulties out there. I think one of the things that I worry about as we're talking about all of this is where does the high school football player fit in, and how does that recruiting work, and how do you even get your finger or your toes in the door unless you're a top 100 player in the country? You know, I wasn't a top 100 player in the country. I went the hard way. I went junior college, then I got to Division One.
Yeah.
But I felt like I stood toe to toe with the guys that were Division One by the time I got there. And
Right.
so what happens to the high school kid?
I know. Well, I don't know. I got a theory. I'll run this theory by you. It's your deal. The high school kid who dreams that he's going to go to BYU or Utah as a freshman had better be able to play as a freshman. You got to at least be able to play on special teams, right? But if you can't do that, then go to a Big Sky school or go to Snow, play, and excel. And here's the good news. Kids used to have to go and sit for 2 years and then play as a junior. We can get Robbie Bosco on the phone, and he'll just tell us his life story again. And it was awesome because he went undefeated, and it set him up for life with a job at BYU, first coaching and now fundraising. But he had to sit, and players want to play. Well, if you go to the Big Sky, whether it's Weber State, and next year it'll be Utah Tech and Southern Utah also, you can have a chance to play. You went the hard way, but you got to play, and some kid like you was a fourth-string quarterback at Utah or BYU and had to practice and had to do the weightlifting, had to watch the film, and never got to play. So in a way, you did it the hard way, but in a way, you did it the easy way. You played.
Yeah, well, in a way, I got to do it the enjoyable way.
Right.
Meaning I got to play a whole bunch of years. But what the thing that gets interesting here is you have to be careful as Utah State. I think Weber's a little bit easier. I think Coach Care, probably one of the recruiting pitches is, hey, we love you as a quarterback. Come here and start for 2 years, and then we'll help you find a place that lands you a big contract. And you will have already played really, really good high-level football here, and you'll be in a system that actually throws the ball and can highlight your skills. So I think that's easier. But what do you do as Utah State? Is that what you want to turn yourself into?
No.
How far do you go? How far do you go with that?
I got the answer.
Okay,
the answer is no. No, I don't want to turn myself into that. But here's the other answer. I have no choice. I have been turned into that by this evolution of a system that I had no control over. So the answer is no, I don't want it, but I need to embrace it in order to excel. And if you don't want to embrace it, then get out.
What I would love to see, because I think what's going to happen with what we used to call G5 conference teams, right, is they used to get paid to go play a big game at Alabama, or I played in those money games where I got my butt handed to me. Remember Kevin Curtis playing at LSU? That's probably why he's in the NFL. Is he had 130 yards receiving. He had
a great game.
Yeah, but what I would like to see, and I don't pretend to know how the metrics work, how the money works, but what I would like to see is colleges being able to own the rights to a player, right? And then if you're going to steal him, then you got to pay me $500,000 to take him.
Yeah, see, you're back to organized pro sports. That's how soccer works.
Right.
They literally, right?
It is the soccer model.
Yeah.
But I would love that if there was some way that could work. I just don't think that we can regulate it. I think we let it out of Pandora's box. And I mean, if wishes were fishes, I'd go back and say, okay, here's how you do it. Phil Rivers plays at NC State. He's got all kinds of jerseys. What you do is you put a $5 million trust fund at the end of him graduating from NC State. If he graduates from NC State, he gets the $5 million. If he doesn't, then he doesn't get a penny of it. That
can still be done. That could still be done. And what's to say? Eric Kerr coached at Corner Canyon, some billionaire down there that Eric probably knows. And maybe Eric could talk him into doing that at Weber State. There's nothing stopping them. I mean, in this NIL world, do it. And if they say it's against the rules, sue them. You'll probably win anyway.
Right. I just think that's a good way to help people to be loyal to your school and loyal to your program.
Wait a minute. That is not a good way to help them be loyal. That's a good way to keep them at the school. But I don't know if I want to use the word loyalty.
Okay, like my son says, potato. You're right.
Okay, all right.
It helps encourage people.
To stay put,
in an assertive way to stay in school, right? But here's where I think that also eliminates another problem, though, because one of the big problems when they recruited the quarterback to Tennessee that was going to make $8 million is I heard through the grapevine that there was a lot of resentment in the locker room from the offensive lineman that he was going to make $8 million before he'd even stepped on the field. And so you can help team dynamics with something like that where, okay, so I get $8 million, but I don't have it right now. I don't get it unless I stay here at the school. And I think you can help some team dynamics by doing that as well. Because right now, you know, even at the University of Utah, I've heard there's players that are starting that are getting less money than guys that they brought in from either the portal or from high school. And they're going, dude, I freaking start. What's my value?
Yes, 100% to all of that. And I do think that the other thing, and you're close to it, have to tweak it a little bit, but that whole thought about if you graduate from here, you get this, what becomes not contracted, but is just, it's a verbal promise, and then you have to execute it, is if you do that, you will be set for life because we've got alumni running all these businesses. We'll plug you in, and when you're done with football, you'll have a job. Vanderbilt's figured it out. Duke is figuring it out. Northwestern and Stanford could be right behind. Cal, a public school, Michigan, a public school, might be right behind. And prepare yourself for this. The nationally ranked Rice Owls, if they ever decided to do it, that's a super academic school with a lot of rich people in Texas. Right. They've been terrible at football basically my whole life. I think one time they had a good year and they went to the Cotton Bowl when I was a little kid, I think. I mean, they've just been terrible. But if they ever decided to do it, and you could say no, but look how quick Vanderbilt turned it around. Because the wealthy alumni got plugged in. I got to say, I have more respect for Vanderbilt than ever before because it's pretty clear to me that now they spent a lifetime saying, we know everybody else is in the SEC is cheating. We're not going to do it. And if we finish last, so be it. We don't care if people laugh at us. But when the rules change, they're like, oh, it's legit now? We're in. Yeah. And look what happened. They got really good really quickly. Let's hear it for the Commodores.
The closest thing that I've seen so far to kind of the concepts that I'm talking about is the University of Miami receiver just signed a contract that's like $1.5 million a year, and if he stays to the next season, he gets a $500,000 bonus, and then if he graduates from University of Miami, he gets like $1 million bonus. That's the closest thing that I've seen.
That's the pro model, the roster bonus. We hear it all the time. This player gets X amount of money if he's on the roster on whatever the date is. So it's more of the pro model. All right, Riley, we got to run. I feel like we solved a lot of problems here. I mean, we haven't been invited to the White House for the meeting, even though we have the answers.
I don't know why.
I know.
He's got my number.
Thank you, Riley.
All right.
All right, there's Riley Jensen talking football. When we come back, David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. Summertime moves, trying to figure them out now. We'll do that next.